This is Talina Galloway. Bomily told investigators Talina was scared of COVID-19, so she decided to go away.
A woman accused of killing her roommate, then cutting up the victim's body and hiding it in a freezer, is back in Wagoner County tonight after being extradited from Wisconsin.
Lori Fullbright, crime expert, victims advocate. She's dedicated more than 3 decades to covering crime in Tulsa and helping families stay safe. But now it's time to go further. From the real people behind the headlines to unsolved mysteries to expert crime safety advice. These are the unforgettable cases of the Fullbright Files.
Hi everybody, I'm Lori Fullbright. On this episode of the Fulbright Files, we have a really interesting case that we're going to talk about because while investigators in Wagoner County, Oklahoma were investigating one murder, they found evidence that led to a potential almost murder in another state that had happened 6 years earlier, and that just doesn't happen very often, that while you're investigating one case, then you lead to another case and basically get it solved. And our investigators did such great work on this case, and they were investigating a woman named Lori Bomily, and her roommate had disappeared, and she claimed that she had gotten sick and she went to isolate. This was all during COVID. But they did not really believe that from the beginning and didn't find any evidence that that was the case. Well, so while they are looking into that case is when they stumble across this other evidence.
The Wagoner County Sheriff's Office gets a major break in a missing persons case.
I don't know anybody, and I've been doing this for a minute, I don't know anybody that's ever been a part of a Ricin case. Like I said, it's like a spinal thing.
I want to introduce you to our guest today. This is Danny Elliott, one of the investigators at the Wagoner County Sheriff's Office. Thank you so much for being here. This has got to, I know you've had a lot of cases over the years, but this has got to rank right up there, right? As one of the most strange ones?
Definitely one of the craziest cases, for sure.
It is. Okay, so let's start. And I know that Lori Bomily has not been convicted of any kind of a murder here. But having said that, this case started because you were investigating her in the disappearance and ended up being the death of her roommate. So
Yes.
the body ends up being found of the victim 9 months later? 9 months later.
That sounds about right.
And she had been dismembered, placed into a freezer down in Arkansas. That in and of itself is a little bizarre, right? The way all that. So how did you guys find out about that?
Well, we got a call from the Arkansas Highway Patrol that said that they had a freezer with a body in it. And were we missing anybody that may have connections or may not? Well, several months before, there was a vehicle down there, and one of the deputies in that county had taken the tag number, and it was hers.
Isn't that amazing how that kind of, I love when an investigator is just out doing something, see something that doesn't feel right, look right, go, oh, I'll just get the tag number. And then that ends up being a key to finding out who rents that truck, who goes down there, who's near that freezer where the body is then dumped and later found. And I love that kind of work. Mm-hmm. So when you get this call, you're like, well, actually, we are missing somebody.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact.
We were pretty excited because we'd always thought that that's how we'd find her. We didn't know where or when, but that's how we'd find her. And so we got that call, and 2 of the guys jumped in the truck, and they were on the road in 5 minutes.
I mean, anxious to get down there and see. Yep. Because you really never did believe the roommate, Lori Bomily's story that, oh, she posted on Facebook she got COVID and she was going to go to the lake and isolate. But you never found any evidence of that. You were afraid, I'm sure, that you were going to find her deceased.
That was the idea. I can't really get into a lot of the details of that case, but the idea after the investigation that we did, we figured that that's how she would be found.
And then when you guys race down there, and unfortunately you find out your missing victim is the victim in the freezer.
Correct.
So how do you then, as you're looking into all the evidence, and as we say, that case has not been through the system yet, so she's still facing those charges, but what do you find during that investigation that leads you to the state of Wisconsin? Tell me about that.
Well, the investigation on Ms. Bomily and all the characters that surrounded her, all the events that surrounded her, I mean, it's book worthy. It was all pretty crazy. But anyway, to answer your question, so at the beginning we are investigating a missing persons, but we're also have some information that something's not right. So my partner that's working the case, and I'm working with him, he gets a search warrant for the house. We're looking for any kind of clues that we can get. And But prior to that, we get a call while we're looking for Talina that from the ex of Bomley.
Okay. And Talina Galloway is our victim.
Correct.
Yes. Who went missing and then later was found dead. Okay. So
is
you get a
correct.
call from the ex of Corey Bomley.
Right. That was cooperating, trying to help us figure out where this lady was. Because by this time, unbeknownst to us, it was already there were sleuths coming out of the woodwork in the social media part of it. Anyway,
That has definitely changed your job, hasn't it? The social media sleuths out there.
It definitely makes it interesting, fun. We'll go with fun.
I was going to say difficult, but okay, we'll go with fun.
We'll go with fun. How about that? So anywho, so we get a call and we're getting information from the ex, and the ex is interesting in itself, but told us about that she had been arrested in Wisconsin years prior, and then he went on to say that he had tried to kill a couple of people using ricin. And I remember Joel and I were like,
Oh,
why
brother.
not? Why not?
We'll look at it. What the heck?
Why not? Sure. It sounds like something out of a spy novel. But,
Right. Doesn't
whatever.
sound like it has the truth to it.
So we didn't really put a whole lot of stock into it, didn't think much about it. And then when we're executing the search warrant, we're looking through the house and we find this little safe. And we get into the safe, and when we open it, there's a jar of castor beans. And Joel and I just kind of looked at each other and like, dude, these are castor beans.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surreal moment because that's what you make ricin with. Yeah.
That's how you make your homemade ricin.
And so then it kind of gave the ex a little bit of, credibility for sure. And so we didn't take the ricin beans because that wasn't part of our search warrant, but it was just really interesting that that happened. Well, during the course of that investigation, one of the main witnesses on the case just all of a sudden died. And so now we're thinking ricin.
That's interesting.
So when the ME picks up the body and was going to do an autopsy, we requested that they do a test for ricin.
Interesting.
Ricin poisoning. Well,
Which you don't hear about every day in Green Country, Oklahoma.
well, as you're going to find out in this story, we don't know anything about ricin. Well, once we mentioned ricin to the ME immediately calls the FBI.
Oh.
And the FBI calls and goes, why are you having this person
Tested for
tested?
ricin.
Because also in the course of the investigation, we also found on Ms. Bomley's computer a recipe to make ricin.
Oh, my. Doesn't
Yeah.
it just keep adding up?
It does. And so the FBI had to approve, and I think it was like $10,000 for the testing of ricin on this body. Now,
Here you guys are a couple local investigators going, we just want to run a test. It's no big
shoot
deal.
somebody, stab somebody, run them over, beat them to death. That's our gig.
That's our bailiwick.
But yeah, but ricin, I mean, we don't know what we're
So
doing.
you don't know what's leading to this federal and now approval and expense.
So now we got the
Interesting.
feds involved.
Okay.
And so they do the autopsy, and the person that died did not die of ricin poisoning. Okay, that's fine. Well, talking to the ex more about what was going on, he said that they tried to that Corey had spread ricin all over the house of the people that she robbed. Well, we looked up the record, and all we could find was a conviction for unauthorized use of a credit card
In Wisconsin.
in Wisconsin,
For Corey
Madison,
Bomley.
Wisconsin.
Okay. So you're like, yeah, there's no robbery. I don't see a robbery. Or...
Right. So I'm like, so it really got me curious because I'm dumb like that. And so I contacted and we got a copy of the report. And sure enough, in the report, it talks about that deputy that responded to that scene. Someone had broken the house and spread white stuff all over their bed, underwear drawers, sock drawers, and they said it had a consistency of like cat litter.
Interesting.
But nobody knew what it was.
Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
I go, this is weird that somebody spread all this around.
Right. And so I'm like, and I'm talking to my partner. I said, that's got to be ricin. I bet that is ricin.
And at this point, you're thinking this is almost, it is kind of like a novel, like the twists and turns.
Ricin. Who kills people with ricin?
Right.
I mean, that's
who
something.
makes their own, who looks
that's-
it up, who makes it, and then spreads it around.
That's something you hear on, cable news from,
Right.
and so, okay. But now I'm kind of
Now you're into
stoked
it.
about it. So I call up there. I end up contacting the actual deputy that went on the scene, and he said, man, I didn't know what it was, and we didn't take any.
Oh.
Okay.
That would have been nice to tell.
So, so I kind of thought I was at a dead end. So I ended up contacting the victims of that crime.
Interesting.
And I asked the lady that had been the victim, I said, is there any chance, any way you kept any of that stuff that was spread in your house? She said, you know, I kept some in a jar for a year because I thought somebody may want to test this and figure out what it was. She said, but after a year, nobody ever called, never done anything, and she threw it away.
Oh, my word.
They swept it up and threw it in the trash.
Oh.
I'm like, ah.
Oh, that was a heart drop.
It was a hard drop because I was all excited. Mm-hmm. Anywho, so I'd hung up the phone with her, and I bet it wasn't an hour later. An hour later, she called. She goes, you know, I was thinking, she said, I've got socks in my drawer that I haven't worn in years. And this is like, what, 6 or 7 years later?
After the fact, yes.
So she goes in there, and she unrolls some old socks.
And it's still...
And there was a couple of pieces that fell out. And she said, that's the stuff.
Oh, my word.
Okay, but this is where it gets stupid on my part.
Do tell.
Yeah, I'll never live this one down.
Okay.
So I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That, of course, it's been in their house for like 7 years. And I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I said, I'd put some gloves on, put it in a Ziploc bag, and send it to me FedEx overnight. So I had a lady mail me
Some
ricin
through the mail.
Didn't even think about it.
Didn't even think, oh, that could be like a federal crime.
It could be. I could be. And now we're co-conspirators.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just
You're
didn't,
both going down.
I just didn't. Yeah. So I just didn't think it through very quick because I was so excited about it. Anyway,
Yes.
sure enough, she sends it. I didn't open it because by that time I realized you just had somebody send you ricin in the mail.
Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it was.
Well, we didn't know. So the FBI was still on board, and we sent it to the FBI, and they came back and said, sure enough, it's ricin. And we're all excited because, man, there's a case right there. But then they said, but the feds would not use it in the prosecutorial arena because of the custody, the chain of custody for the evidence.
Because we had this lady
And we're like,
throw it in the mail, and
well, I get
that makes sense. Because, but for people who don't know, chain of custody is a big thing. Who had the evidence? Who touched it? Where did it go? You got to be able to prove every step of the way where it was to make sure it wasn't tainted.
And in the state, you know, if somebody brings you evidence and can articulate that, and you can verify that, you know, that's taken. But this was a different deal. Plus, ricin is a weapon of mass destruction,
Right.
so you know it's a different deal. So what we ended up doing is the feds ended up getting all the alphabet soup agencies to go in full. You know,
hazmat suits.
Hazmat suits, everything. Those poor old people in that house are like, oh my gosh.
Oh, what's happening?
And they kicked
all these years later.
They kicked them out. We weren't really hopeful that they would find any more, but sure enough, they did find
They
some.
found more.
Tested positive for ricin. So
That is crazy.
We were pretty excited, and the whole time we're talking to the prosecutor's office in Wisconsin about it.
Right.
And they definitely had some interest. And so once we found out that too was ricin, and now the evidence and the custody was complete like it should be, I went ahead and packaged everything that I had together, put the case together, sent it to their investigator who finished the job, and they ended up charging her for 2 counts of attempted murder.
Were you like, what? This took a turn. Like, here we're investigating this case in Wagoner County, and now we've just solved a case in Wisconsin. It was like, that's almost a crazy set of events that happened to get there.
As dumb as I was of having her mail that to me, it really turned out well.
It did.
You know, what a cool case.
It is.
You know,
it's so
cool
different.
case.
I mean, this has got to be one of the top 5 all weirdest cases you've ever worked.
Oh yeah, and this barely scratches the surface on this
case, because there is a wide cast of characters kind of involved in this that you can't go into probably all of them. But this has a bunch of, like you said, it's almost a movie or a book.
There's a lot of flavors in this case. That is for sure. It's a big web of all kinds of craziness. But
That's a good way to put it. But you go up and testify then at her trial.
so Joel and I go up there, and we had to be careful because we can't talk about our case here. But because the fact that we were instrumental in getting the evidence and getting that to where it was, and for the background story on Ms. Baumley and the things that she said, yeah, they brought us up to Wisconsin. And I mean, it took a couple of more years for it to even get to that point. And I know the COVID had a lot to do with it and some other things. But anyway, we go to Wisconsin, we testify. The defense attorney was very careful. But we told what we were and what we did. And by the end of it, she got convicted. 2 attempted murder counts, and the evidence was there. It was a pretty cool case, and it was a great ending.
And we don't really know why, right? When she went in to steal things from this house, why did she decide to sprinkle around homemade ricin? Why did she want to?
I can't tell you per fact why. I can tell you that apparently she did not like the lady of the house. I guess they had dogs. Corey and her ex had dogs there. They barked all the time. Somebody complained on them, and she thought it was these folks. That's the theory.
That was the prosecution theory. But really, because you complain about my dogs barking, I'm going to spread around ricin in your house.
It's not so far-fetched with this young lady.
If you look at her in total, I guess you're thinking, well, that kind of goes along with what you've learned.
It does not shock me. But, yeah, so that's kind of how that turned out. And, you know, we had a successful conviction out of it, and so we felt pretty good about that.
Right.
And I think she got 25 years per count. Okay.
And so really now the next step is she goes on trial or goes through the justice system here for the murder that happened here.
Yeah, I think there was a fight for her to come back.
The extradition.
I think she's fighting it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not my
bailiwick
area.
either.
Yeah. But she will end up back
If there will be
here.
a trial here, it will be the second trial you've testified at.
Correct.
Where she's accused of trying to or killing someone.
Correct.
What have you thought about when you sit back in your easy chair at night and have a drink in your hand? What do you think about this case when you ponder it?
Well, first of all, I'm glad I was a part of it. I'm glad I had a really good partner. Because, you know, to be honest with you, in law enforcement, you know, when a grown person, you know, ups and leaves, it's unfortunate, but not a lot of people take that too serious.
That's true.
And this could have been just another nameless person in the books. But because the thing that I would describe Miss Baumley is that she has quite the ego, and sometimes when people are like that and they try to outsmart whoever they're speaking to, they usually screw up, and she screwed up, and that's what kept us on it, and kept us on it, and kept us on it, and eventually, I think this case alone had 20 search warrants on it. I mean, just over and over and over.
Looking for this and looking for that.
Looking for that. I mean, we'd get one search warrant and it would lead us to the next thing, and then we'd have to do that. And so there is a I think when he finally turned it over to the district attorney, he had, you know, one of those wheel carts.
Rolling carts of files.
Completely full.
And, I mean, there was other things, too, in addition to things that she was saying, but selling items that belonged to the victim super fast. You know, if my friend went missing, I don't think I'd start selling her stuff right away. You know, I'd be like hanging on thinking maybe she's going to come back.
Doesn't seem smart.
Right. So there was lots of things about this case, but I think you're right. There's a lot of investigators. They're like, oh, a missing person. Okay. You know, because we get those so many times. But this one that you guys you just kept at it and you just kept unraveling more and unraveling more. And then you unraveled an attempted murder in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And I don't ever think she even expected that.
I don't think anybody expected that.
No, I don't think, you know, I don't even think the victims expected it to come through because they just went on with their lives and, you know, apparently didn't roll out a pair of socks for a long time. That
had ricin in them.
That had ricin in them.
And then there's more found in the house.
So thankfully to them, and the ex told us that she's a horrible chemist. So God bless her for being a horrible chemist because
if she'd been good.
We looked up what happens with ricin poison. and it ain't fun.
That's why the feds get involved when they hear
Yeah.
that word. Wow.
So whenever this other case finally goes through, you may want to do that, and it'll be a whole series because it's so complex and so big. But
So let's do that again. After that case is over, let's talk again, and maybe then you can really give us some of the details that you can't give us now.
yeah, because I'd love to.
Okay, Danny Elliott, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this case. It's fascinating. People have talked about it in the newsroom. I know you get asked about it in the coffee shop. I'm sure you've told lots of, you should teach a class on it. It's just such an interesting thing, but we really appreciate your time and all the work that you do in Green Country. You've worked some big cases over the years, and you've always stuck with your guns and stuck with what's right, and we appreciate that about you very much. So
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
All right. Well, please join us for the next episode of the Fullbright Files.